she said she thinks she'll be fine.
I know.
But just go wherever Megan goes. Like, just, you know what I'm saying? Like, when she's done and you go next, just stand where she stands. Are you going to that one?
Yeah. Good question.
I'm going to ask.
Thanks, Kristen. Yes. Megan needs the grand instruments. No, yeah, right. I'm done with those grand I just do what I'm told. This is my
Well, that's what she'll be up there with you.
Yeah.
I think you're going to the middle one.
Everybody does.
You hear me, Meg? I think you're going to the middle one.
Ready?
Five minutes are up. I'm Michael Conjimmy. I'm the president of the local Teamster Local 6505 that owns the building, and we built this building in 1973. We certainly wish to welcome all of you. We appreciate you coming out. We appreciate Just Moms utilizing our facility. They've been here a number of times. We have a great relationship with them. They do fabulous work. For those of you that I see there's only a couple of you in the room that are old enough to remember, at the Lambert Airport, if you remember many years ago, down on the lower level, there was a great big long mural, 80 to 100 feet long, where it was called The History of Flight. It was painted by Siegfried Reinhardt. Well, in 1973, when our union had this building built, Siegfried Reinhardt painted this mural here for us, The History of Print. We are a printing union, and we have several artifacts of our trade, our crafts in the building. If you feel free to go over into our lobby, and you'll see some shadow box in there with a lot of tools. You'll see a collage in there of prints. I say it that way. A lot of people say, oh, you got a lot of neat pictures. I say, no, we do not have pictures. We have prints, because we're a printing union. And those prints you see over there will range anywhere from 80 to 120 years old. Feel free to go into our executive board room. There's more in there. We're very proud of our prints and our artifacts of our trade. So please feel comfortable to walk around and look at the building. Some important parts, the restrooms. As you leave the banquet room, the double doors, cross through to the next double doors, and just keep walking straight. Before your nose hits the wall, turn right. There's a hallway there with the men's and ladies' restrooms. The handicap room is sitting right out in the open. So once again, for our Teamster printing brothers and sisters, we welcome all of you. Again, we thank Just Moms. And candidates, we applaud you. Whatever it is you're doing, whatever it is you promote, we applaud you for sticking your necks out there.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Don.
Hi. Hey, Randy. Good. How are you, Randy? Can you guys hear me? Okay, it's on. So I want to introduce our moderator tonight, Professor LaRonda Wilson from Florissant Community College. She's a professor of sociology. She has been amazing for us. We've been out to her classes several times to talk about the radiological legacy left in St. Louis from the bombs, and we're gracious that she accepted our invitation. I want to tell you that there will be another candidates forum on August 31st. So today happens to be the start of the Missouri State Fair. And so some of our candidates for governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, our senators, our congresspeople, they had made commitments 8-9 months ago to be there. They really did want to come, and so we went ahead and added another date. All the candidates that are here tonight are more than welcome to come back for that, as I expect we'll have a different audience. So just so you guys know that that's going on. I think that also out of respect for you guys, I think that you need to hear what all these candidates have to say, and you need to hear from the ones that truly wanted to be here tonight and just couldn't make it. So I think it's pretty fair for you guys to be able to meet them in person and hear what they have to say on this issue. If you guys are using Twitter, young people, if you're live tweeting, I know several of you are, please use hashtag STLVote for Twitter and Facebook behind any of your posts. And STL Vote.
It's actually, sorry, it's West Lake Forum.
Is it?
Yes.
Hashtag West Lake Forum.
And it will be up there.
Okay, it'll be up there. Fantastic if you're live tweeting. Without further ado, I'm going to bring LaRonda up.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you all tonight. As Dawn said, my name is LaRonda Wilson. I'm from St. Louis Community College on the Florissant Valley campus, and I love these moms. Not only are they advocating for us here in St. Louis, that's right, give them a hand, please. Not only are they advocating for us here in St. Louis, but they've been doing the Lord's work all over the country. So we should be real proud of that. So thank you for hosting this forum tonight. So we do welcome, and we're honored this evening to have 10 candidates for public office with us tonight. Thank you. We know that this is time out, so let's give our candidates.
Oh, yeah.
One is brave to run for an office. It's brave to run for an office in the first place. So we thank you for doing that, and we thank you for being here tonight. Secondly, let me just give some ground rules for this evening. We are going to allow 3 minutes for each candidate this evening so that everyone will have an opportunity to speak. And we are going to ask for you to speak specifically on the West Lake Landfill this evening. While we know that this is a very short time to address such a monumental problem, our goal is to give each voter in this room a chance to hear from as many candidates as possible. And as Dawn said, this is one opportunity, and August 31st will be another. We want to be respectful of time, so we are going to be strict about that time. So please welcome the different candidates running for State House District 65, 70, and 72. State Senate District 23, and U.S. House Representatives for Districts 1 and 2. And I am pausing because they're doing some heavy lifting here. And we also have with us tonight someone from District 68 and 2 candidates for County Council in District 2. So please, let's give them a hand. Our community has the right to know what these individuals plan to do on the West Lake Landfill front. This is near and dear to our heart, especially since any one of them could win an office where they have the chance to do something. We will not let this die. We will not let this die. So you all need to know that. Though we have several candidates here who are running for the same position, this will not be a debate. Each candidate has already received the questions, and that they will be asked to respond to what they have prepared to deliver tonight. Without further ado, we are going to hear from 2 amazing individuals who are going to give us testimony for why we're here tonight. First, Ms. Beckerman, Megan Beckerman. I work with her aunt. They are fabulous divas. So we're going to hear from Megan.
Good evening. My name is Megan Beckerman. And in 2010, my husband and I bought our current home in Bridgeton.
We bought this home without the slightest clue that we were moving into a neighborhood that sits 1.3 miles from a landfill where some of the world's most deadliest radioactive waste was sitting on the surface. We bought it without any clue that underneath that contaminated surface, an underground fire was to be found burning in 2010 by Republic Services, the landfill owner, and the community found out at the end of 2012, and it's still burning today. The property that I speak of, as I later found out, is the land shared by both the West Lake and the Bridgeton landfills, which is an EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, Superfund site. Now, since we moved into this home in 2010, the dangers have only intensified. The off-site contamination has spread. The fire has progressed closer to the radioactive waste. The odor has persisted. The deadly radioactive particles have been found in our trees, our parks, water, and homes, yet nothing has been done to hold the companies at fault responsible for their violations and the selfish, short-sighted, quick-fix solutions that have failed this community. As a Superfund site, under the Environmental Protection Agency, there is no independent testing at this site. They are all paid for and conducted by the landfill owner, Republic Services, Koster Corporation, which is now Exelon, and the U.S. Department of Energy. So in other words, unless the jurisdiction of this site is taken from EPA and given to the Army Corps of Engineers, we will not have independent, unbiased data collected from this site. Now I'd like to share some of my family's unfortunate events that have all occurred only after the move into our home, which is 1.3 miles from this site in 2010. See, my then 2-year-old began losing clumps of his hair, which has now progressed to a total body hair loss, an autoimmune disease I've been told is likely triggered by environmental toxins. Also, after moving in, he had to begin receiving morning and evening doses of steroids through a breathing machine, a nebulizer, because of wheezing and coughing fits. Most recently, my son had to have his tonsils and adenoids removed because of constant inflammation, which actually was a mystery to us and the doctor because he never had strep throat, which is the usual cause. His play dates are always being cut short or canceled because playing at our parks here often smells of a room full of decaying bodies. On particularly strong odor days, I see the adults begin gagging, and the children complain of burning eyes. Some get bloody noses. Everyone holds their nose. I love entertaining, so I find it very sad that I cannot have holidays at my home because our family is scared to come here. Our outdoor barbecues literally smell like dead animals mixed with rotten eggs, and I promise it's not my cooking. Since the move in 2010, and while the underground fire was the most intense, I began experiencing reoccurring bronchitis, multiple bouts of laryngitis, was prescribed an inhaler that I carry with me at all times now, and now I'm left with trouble breathing at night and a throat that is constantly irritated to the point where it feels like there's always something stuck in my throat. So I find myself constantly coughing, trying to clear it. I've had to remove my children from their sports teams because I'm not comfortable allowing them to play on our ball fields in dirt that has elevated levels of radioactive particles, daughter products traced back to uranium-235, only found in Africa, the Belgian Congo. These exact particles were in fact used in the Manhattan Project to make the first atomic bomb. I am in a constant state of anxiety and worry for the safety of my children. My high school age son comes home from school complaining that during outdoor gym class it smells horrible, like rotten eggs. children and head to work, I don't know if I'll be allowed to pick them back up, because the superintendent has sent letters home warning parents of the possibility that our schools would be on lockdown. No one would be let in, and no one would be let out. That is, if the situation at the landfill takes a turn for the worst and causes a shelter-in-place order to be made by St. Louis County. Now, the hardest part is remembering that I am the lucky one of the lucky ones. I am luckier than my friend. I haven't had to bury my child due to a rare brain tumor that the doctors say is only found in 70-year-old men exposed to ionizing radiation, which is in fact the type of radiation in the waste at West Lake Landfill. And you guessed it, she lives near West Lake Landfill. I'm also luckier than my other friend that has stage 4 lung cancer, who was not a smoker, but did walk laps, many laps daily, around one of our contaminated parks before we knew, and she knew, it was contaminated. I have so many more devastating stories that I could tell, but my point is I'm blessed and lucky and well enough to make a change. Most people ask why I don't just move. My answer is that it's not just a St. Louis problem. It doesn't matter where I move. This will follow me wherever I go. The radioactive particles have been found in dust samples inside our homes. They are probably already embedded in my clothing, my bedding, furniture, food grown here that is shipped around the country. I mean, come on, it has been found in our water, land, and air. It is in you. It is in me. So I ask every candidate here tonight, who will you help and advocate for? If we vote for you and you're elected. Will it be Republic Services, Exelon, Koster, the Department of Energy, EPA, Department of Natural Resources, State of Missouri, or we, the people, who are prepared to vote for whoever supports the solution at this site, which I believe is a voluntary buyout and property assurance for those living closest to the landfill, and a safe permanent solution to the radioactive waste, which this community believes can only be done and achieved by passing House Bill 4100, giving jurisdiction of this landfill to Army Corps of Engineers. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Our next speaker is going to offer another compelling story, Izzy Richmond. And I would like for us to clap as she's walking up here. Thank you, Izzy.
Hello, my name is Izzy Richmond. Hello, my name is Izzy Richmond, and I'm 13 years old. I moved to Maryland Heights in 2010 and was diagnosed with asthma a few months later. It was quite terrifying because I didn't know when I would start gasping for breath. I haven't had to use my rescue inhaler since I moved away from the landfill. My mom was diagnosed with thyroid cancer in 2013 and has had many surgeries. It's depressing to see your own mother in the hospital again and again and not even know why. I had just started middle school when we moved away. It was difficult to explain to my friends that I had to leave because it wasn't safe. I am sure they don't understand to this day. Leaving my friends was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. We aren't safe. It's in the air. It's in our groundwater. Why should we have to live in fear and move away from the people we love because of a careless act committed 40 years ago?
Like I said, not only do I love it when we encourage young people was brave, and I know it was hard. So we appreciate you. So without further ado, we are going to hear from our candidates. I would like for us to give some ground rules here. I would like to ask the audience to please make sure that we're being respectful, and not only with our verbal voices, but also with our facial expressions and our body language. It's hard to run for office, and it's hard to share thoughts with audiences. So please try to be mindful of that when the candidates are here. Karen is going to address each candidate. She's going to ask questions. And like I said before, we're going to allow 3 minutes each. Where's our timer? We have good. I have a stopwatch here, but just so that you know, we're working diligently to keep those 3 minutes. Our timer is going to hold up cards for all of us to see. And it's not to cut you off, it's just to be respectful of everyone that's here. Okay, so lastly, I'd just like to say one more time, thank you for everyone for being here. It's a Thursday evening, you could be eating dinner, you could be watching whatever you like to watch on TV tonight. So give your hands around, give yourselves around, because your voice and your agency is important, so please. So I'll call our first 4 candidates, Amy Pelker, Sam Page, Steve Bailey, and Bill Otto. Will you please join us here on the stage?
So we are going to start with Amy Pelker. She is running for St. Louis County Council seat in District 2. And let me introduce to you Amy. Okay. Number 1. Will you publicly support federal legislation to put the Corps of Engineers in charge at West Lake Landfill now, and as an elected official, please explain your response? And number 2, will you support the community goal of a voluntary buyout for the people who live within 1 mile of the smoldering West Lake Landfill?
Yes, I will on both points. Sorry. I believe that the federal government has been lax. It is their responsibility. They gave Mallinckrodt total immunity on this item, and they need to back up and take care of West Lake now.
Thank you. Do you want to add anything? You have time. You can start.
Because that's what I thought I was here to do. Okay. Well, it was brought to my attention that a pipeline was being installed along St. Charles Rock Road from Bridgeton's West Lake Landfill to just under the viaduct at I-70 and St. Charles Rock Road. This was to become a 7.5 mile, 8-inch pipeline passing 4 schools, businesses, and residential homes, and dumps leachate into a 15-inch line under I-70 that free flows into the Bissell sewer line. I requested and held a public forum on the West Lake pipeline. The details of the pipeline were explained, and maybe half of my 67 questions that I put together from the residents were answered. I introduced and spoke on it before my airport township. The committee man, Bruce Bowaldo, decided to hold his next township meeting at a West Lake Moms meeting. After listening to the issue firsthand, Senator Roy Blunt was brought into the situation by my committee township person. At which point, Bill 2306 was prepared and presented before the Senate and passed, from which Bill 4100 was developed and is waiting in the House of Representatives for passing. I also informed Don that Maria Chappelle-Nadal was one of Bridgeton's senators and would be a good source for bringing attention to this issue. These are our towns. Our children have been raised here and are being raised here. No one told us this nuclear waste was in our backyards. Many of the candidates for office have chosen the West Lake Landfill as an issue to run on and get our votes. We watch them come on strong and then back away their efforts once they think we are not watching any longer. My participation has been and will remain to stay the steady course, pushing, reaching out to the legislators, and keeping the public informed. Each one of you should be emailing and writing and calling your representatives, whatever it takes to get their attention. This is what it will take to get this matter resolved. The moms have done a great job bringing attention to this matter, but they need our help to bring it home. Make no mistake about it, in my opinion, this landfill is the result of our federal government giving full immunity to Mallinckrodt and then not ensuring public safety.
Thank you. Thank you, Beth.
Time. Thank you, everyone. Amy had a previous engagement, and she took some time to get here to answer our questions. So she's going to have to go ahead and take off, but another round of applause for Amy for coming. Next up, we have Sam Page. Sam is also running for the same seat, and he is currently a St. Louis County Councilman. Sam? So the first question, will you publicly support federal legislation to put the Corps of Engineers in charge at West Lake now and as an elected official? Please explain your response.
Well, I will, and I have. Sure. Well, can I hold it?
No.
You want to hold it up here for me?
I'll hold it.
That's good right there. How about that? Can you hear me in the back? Great. So, I've been involved in this for a while, for a couple of years, I guess, since when I was first running for office, and I met Dawn in the Just Moms groups. But I have passed 2 resolutions unanimously at the county council level to ask for food scrap control of this site. And I've had numerous meetings with our state and federal elected officials to ask for their support to pass legislation, met with their staff, and we've been working on this for quite a while.
Okay. Will you support the community goal of a voluntary buyout for the people who live within 1 mile of the smoldering West Lake landfill?
Well, absolutely. I mean, when we start, whatever the final remediation plan will be, and hopefully it'll be driven by food scrap, I can't imagine any sort of dirt movement in this area that won't stir up more sulfur dioxide and more toxicity to the community, and we need to get our hands around that. And unfortunately, I think the only thing we can do is move the people away.
Do you have anything else?
Sure. Make a couple of comments. Hold it for me.
Oh, Mike.
Okay, maybe I should explain. One of the tasks that the moms are in charge of, because we deal with all of our children, is we're in charge. So I'm going to hold the mic, and you guys are going to have to give me your answers and then be cut off and run off the stage.
Yes, if you hold the mic, then we have to quit when you say quit. To watch that with elected officials. Well, again, my name is Sam Page. I've been your county council representative for this area for the past 2 years. I was elected to fill an unexpired term when Kat passed away, and I am running for a full 4-year term in November. I've been involved in this issue for quite some time. I can tell you that it's a priority of County Executive Senior and of me, and we have directed the health department and all of their resources to engage fully in not only the long-term effects of radiation exposure, but also the short-term effects of sulfur dioxide fumes. And we did conduct a health study, which I presented the foundation or the plan for the health study back in February in a forum with Dr. Caldecott. And I was there to present my ideas, but I can tell you I learned a great deal from the presentation of her data and her history. I had no idea what was going on in that landfill. And I think that's part of the problem. I mean, our health study didn't show us the information that we had expected, but it's because we don't have enough data. And we don't have enough data because we don't have enough sulfur dioxide monitors. And now with what we've seen from the the Champ landfill, we know that that is part of the solution. But we will be fully engaged with this. I also support County Executive Stinger's plan to have a full grid analysis so we can completely understand the nature of the radioactive waste that's been hidden from us for so long. Thanks.
Thank you, Sam. One more thing, if you didn't receive a packet up at the front desk, sign-in area, there is a packet up there. Did everybody get that? Has a little report card in it and information. Okay. If you don't have one, here's Laura. She can give you one. Okay. Next up, we have Mr. Bill Otto. Mr. Otto is running for a seat in Congress.
You're shorter.
Can I do that?
Yeah, that's fine. I need a step stool to stand.
My name is Bill Otto.
I'm the question maker.
Okay. 1. Will you make legislation to put the Corps of Engineer? Will you make legislation to put the Corps of Engineer change a priority? If yes, how? If no, why not? Do you want your second question too?
Sure.
How will you engage or involve the community leaders regarding Westlake during the EPA's transition following the election?
First, thanks so much for allowing me to come here and talk. My name is Bill Otto, and I'm the House Representative for the area around the landfill. I got elected in 2012. 2012, November of that year, and in January of 2013, I met Dawn, wherever she is today. She was very animate and got us out and actually started this movement. I've been here since the moms began. I was city councilman here for around that landfill years ago as well. I have publicly supported, put out press releases, and worked hard for the three main points that this group has been working on for so long. A 1-mile buyout. A buyout to get the people that are affected immediately by the stench and by the radioactive material in this landfill. I think it's essential. I've also absolutely supported the property assurance issues. Those property assurance is important for those that live around the landfill and will suffer and will continue to suffer the aftermath of once they start removing this material. And of course, without a doubt, this needs to be moved to food wrap. Everybody that was at the meeting Monday night absolutely saw the lack of trust that we have in the EPA. And I'm not a big anti-government guy. I don't think that there's a conspiracy. I don't think, but anybody needs to understand, no matter what, if you're in charge of a job, if you're in charge of something, and the folks that you're working for don't trust you, you need to get it to someone that will trust. And the EPA does not hold this community trust by any means whatsoever. I also want to talk just a little bit about what Dawn said earlier about the state fair in Sedalia. I understand that the statewide are there, and I'll give them a little bit of a pass for that. Makes sense. If you're running statewide, that's where the rural leaders of the state are for this weekend, and that's a good place to rub elbows. I've been in state government for 4 years, and I have never gone to that because honestly, it doesn't affect this landfill. It doesn't affect my district. My opponent, Ann Wagner, is at that affair tonight. She is rubbing elbows with statewide because it's her job, it's her intent to stay here just as long as she has to and then move on. She's not here tonight because this is not important enough for her. That's all there is to it. And I have been around this group and we have worked on legislation. You have seen me working on the floor of the Missouri House trying to change legislation that could hurt or damage our efforts here. You've seen that. But you all know better than to have someone file a bill and get a hearing on it the day before they start a 7-week break. Ann Wagner is here to take a stepping stone, and she is only doing anything for this landfill because she has somebody challenging for her job. I don't take credit for much, but I will tell you right now, anything she does for your behalf is because I know I'm really against her.
Thank you. Next we have Mr. Stephen Bailey. He is also running for a seat in Congress.
Hi, I'm Steve Bailey. I'm running for the 1st Congressional District. That seat has been held by the Clay family for 48 years now. That's 1/5 of the existence of the United States of America.
All right, so I'm going to ask you the two questions. Number one, will you make legislation to put the Corps of Engineer change a priority? If yes, how? If no, why not? And number two, how will you engage or involve the community leaders regarding Westlake during the EPA's transition following the election?
Well, I'm delighted that you're holding this forum because I, like many other people, am fairly ignorant of exactly what's going on here. I'm going to tell you that I don't know, and I don't want to put a shovel in this material and find out. But the Corps of Engineers, from the research that I've conducted so far, is operating something around 83 sites in the St. Louis area, designated as 6 different sites. If you look at the fuse wrap program, it's mostly around the airport, but you can actually go pretty quickly with your favorite search engine. Mine happens to start with a G. You know, I know the most searched word and the one starting with B starts with a G. But, you know, we've got, they are much more competent to handle something like this. You know, one of the problems I've seen as we look at the science in this is if we go digging, we may open up Pandora's box. This is not a very friendly confine. This is, it wasn't strontium. There's another element that has a 75-year half-life. That means it's still actively radioactive for 75 years or 75,000 years. I can't remember exactly which. You know, going in and stirring this up and making the sulfur dioxide cloud worse is not necessarily something that's going to benefit them. But we need to work in concert with local authorities, having public meetings, having people come in and give stories that are heartbreaking about families that have essentially been destroyed by World War II radiation. This is the Manhattan Project come back to bite the United States of America. And so, you know, we created it because we had a devil of a world. They were trying to dominate all of Asia, and the only way the Japanese would stop was for Harry Truman to drop the bomb. Not a real good solution. Einstein knew we had trouble in that regard. You know, and radioactive waste is always a problem. From a fiscal point, we have $19.5 trillion worth of federal debt. Finding money for buyout is going to be a challenge, but it absolutely needs to be done. And I think we also need to be aware, as we're doing buyout, that people who are maybe given buyouts may not have affordable housing available at the same rate as what would be given by government buyouts. We saw that in the expansion of the airport. You know, so I sometimes have to bring a little bit of bad news into the picture. We can't promise something that we're going to struggle to deliver.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we thank the 4 candidates that are currently on the stage, and as you're exiting, let's give them another round. And we'll welcome our next 4. We'll welcome our next 4: Byron DeLear, Richard Orr, Dan Hyatt, and Kenny Bierman. Let's welcome them to the stage. Just so that you know, we're starting the timer after the question is asked.
Yes.
Okay. I feel like I'm on the dating game. Okay. Let's see. First up, we have Byron DeLear. Do you want both of your questions at the same time?
Sure.
Okay. Number 1, will you introduce a bill that establishes a relocation program for families that live within 1 mile of sites where there is a smoldering landfill that's lasted for 1 year? Number 2, will you publicly support federal legislation to put the Corps of Engineers in charge at West Lake now and as an elected official? And please explain your responses.
Thank you. My name is Byron DeLear, and first of all, I want to thank the moms for their inspirational leadership in driving this issue forward into the local consciousness, national consciousness, and even international consciousness. The EPA has been derelict in its duty to protect this community, has engaged in purposeful concealing of documents which show ongoing community health threats, and in many ways has taken on the demeanor of an adversary to this community, not unlike their handling of lead poisoning in Flint, Michigan. For this reason, I strenuously support transferring the jurisdiction of the West Lake Landfill from the EPA to the Army Corps of Engineers, who has the capacity and expertise to execute the cleanup of weapons-related nuclear byproduct material. I also pledge to introduce legislation to establish a relocation program for families that live within 1 mile of the site. As a candidate for state representative for Missouri's 70th district, I recognize the West Lake Landfill is the single most important issue of concern for residents who live here. Further, it is one of the most significant environmental challenges Missouri has faced in decades. This looming catastrophe in slow motion has had a national and even international impact. To me, it's an all-hands-on-deck moment. If there's anything I can do to help move this issue forward, I will. When I first met Kirby Pemberton a year and a half ago and heard about her daughter's tragic death, I was deeply moved. After that, I resolved to do whatever I could to help the nearby residents, like Kirby, who have suffered so dearly due to the defense of our nation. I've spent the last year walking the district and speaking with many of the folks in the community, and nearly every single one is concerned about the radioactive West Lake Landfill and wants something done about it. They want action now. Many are aware of recent revelations showing further spread of the radiological contamination and understand that this is a regional threat to human health, which has a huge impact on our community. They are also hungry for more information, but do not trust what they're hearing from the EPA. I live 6 miles south of the site, and I want this community made whole. I believe the federal government has the responsibility to clean up the nuclear weapons-related waste at West Lake. I have spoken with Senator Roy Blunt, Senator Claire McCaskill, Missouri Attorney General Chris Koster, the White House legal team, the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, the General Counsel for the Department of Energy, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and numerous other agencies, elected officials, attorneys, and responsible parties to help move our situation forward. The circumstances reminds me of when I worked on a nuclear site 10 years ago, the Santa Susana Field Lab with the Physicians for Social Responsibility. It was through this experience with the Physicians for Social Responsibility that allowed me the opportunity to share documents and information concerning the West Lake Landfill a year ago with Dr. Helen Caldecott, and included her observations and interviews in numerous columns I wrote for Examiner.com and one for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch.
Thank you. Thank you, Byron.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Richard Orr. Richard is running for Missouri Senate District 23. I don't know Richard. Hi, Richard. Nice to meet you. Okay. Number 1. Will you introduce a bill that establishes a relocation program for families that live within 1 mile of sites where there is a smoldering landfill that's lasted for 1 year? Will you publicly support federal legislation to put the Corps of Engineers in charge at West Lake now and as an elected official? Please explain your response.
Well, I hope all the questions I'm asked as a candidate are going to be this easy, because yes, to both of those questions. I've been among other things, an anti-nuclear activist for most of my life, and this is only the latest issue that has come to a head here. Years ago, I worked with other citizens such as Kay Dry on issues like trying to not have a nuclear power plant in central Missouri, but obviously that failed. But nuclear waste is a huge issue, and I think this proves it, that we're being affected locally by events that took place long ago during World War II and still haven't been adequately addressed. I lived for 10 years in Ferguson, 2 miles east of Lambert Airport and the Bridgeton city limit, and the landfills. And God willing, my family escaped any harm that we know of from the particulates that are out there from these landfills. So yes, I will do everything I could possibly do as a state senator to move this forward, try to break through the 25 years that the EPA has spent not addressing this adequately, and definitely would like to see it transferred to the auspices of the Corps of Engineers and get this finally taken care of properly.
Thank you. Next we have Dan Hyatt. Number 1, will you introduce a bill that establishes a relocation program for families that live within 1 mile of sites where there is a smoldering landfill that's lasted for more than 1 year?
Well, first I wanted to thank the moms and all their hard, dedicated work on this thankless task that has consumed their lives for years. Yes, I would absolutely support a buyout, and I would investigate having that buyout made by Republic Waste rather than the Missouri taxpayer, because the responsible parties are the responsible parties, and they should be accountable for the buyout, for the value, because it was their dumping waste there. It is their company that has created the crisis.
The next question is, will you publicly support federal legislation to put the Corps of Engineers in charge at West Lake now and as an elected official? Please explain your response.
Yes, I would support federal legislation to turn it over to FUSRAP, because FUSRAP is the only organization in the United States, probably in the world, who is qualified to address this issue. One of the other candidates mentioned Santa Susana Field Laboratory, which I grew up not far from, during which there were 3 nuclear plant meltdowns with no containment building. And they are still cleaning up the site, and that state, California, has had successes in doing state legislation to go after the owner of the company, who was not the owner of the facility when the plants were melting down in the 1960s. So there is legislation, there's all kinds of legislation that we can introduce to put the onus on Republic Waste and the other responsible parties.
Okay.
Okay. The issue, there's many issues at West Lake Landfill. There's the immediate health risk to the people of Bridgeton, Maryland Heights, and the surrounding areas. There's also the concern, Santa Susana Field Laboratory, I understand, has contaminated the groundwater for millions of people in 3 or 4 valleys. West Lake Landfill has the risk of contaminating the Missouri River and the Mississippi River all the way down into the Gulf of Mexico. This is not something that affects a few people, but it affects much of the United States, including the breadbasket, and we need to do something about it, addressing both the national implications, the St. Louis region implications, and the local implications. Thank you.
Thank you. And last we have Kenny Bierman. He is also running for Missouri State Legislator.
Are you ready?
So I can't say. Yes, are you ready? All right. Number 1, will you introduce a bill that establishes a relocation program for families that live within 1 mile of sites where there is a smoldering landfill that's lasted for more than 1 year?
Yes. Oh. Yes, I will. And I'm a former state legislator, state representative, and I would most enthusiastically introduce this bill. But as a legislator and knowing how the legislative system works, I would also co-sponsor a bill. And I think that Byron would be your best avenue to follow this bill, because he has the expertise and the local knowledge of this issue. And I think that That's how the system works. We have to have the smartest local person at the state level file this bill. And that's why I would be honored to co-sponsor a bill, but yes, I'll follow a bill myself. But that's just my thought on if we want the process to move. I think that you'd have to go to the expert, the guy that's been around a long time, which would be Byron, and I have no doubt that he's going to win this election. That's my answer.
Okay. Will you publicly support federal legislation to put the Corps of Engineers in charge at West Lake now and as an elected official? Please explain.
Yes, I would. I would do whatever it takes, whatever the local federal official is. They have my utmost support. And I know I've served with Representative England, and she'll tell you when I get on an issue, I'll stick with it, and I'll be a regular harbinger, and I won't let up on it. And that's when I speak on some other issues. This issue of West Lake. And I'm not going to try to do that. Well, I'd like to explain a little bit about myself. My name is Kenny Bierman, and I served as a former state representative in 2008, 2000 to 2010. Currently, I serve on the Archer Farm School Board, and I've been elected to that 5 times in a row. So when I hear this young lady talk, and school children and school issues, and children have been a big chunk of my adult life. And the Archer Farm School District, from even where I live, is not very far away from this landfill, and we've just created 2 educational facilities at the 370 and Highway 94 interchange right there. So when you talk about issues and talk about kids and how this can spread, it's very close to where I live, and also where a whole lot of children are being educated. But on another subject, and this I truly believe, if you want to move this issue forward and you want to get it accomplished, there's one, from my experience in government, the best channel that you people can do. And I haven't told this man this, but it's to elect that Bill Otto guy over there, because he's a blow. And you got to have somebody that's got your back. And that gentleman, I've known him a few years now, and he will do it. And that is the best advice I could give you.
Thank you.
All right, can you guys hear me?
No.
Am I on?
No.
Not on. I can talk loud enough.
There you go.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. Can we, as they're escorting themselves off the stage, we will welcome the next guest. Kander and Bierman, it's great that you are being such a wonderful advocate for your colleagues. I love it. So we're going to welcome to the stage Keith English and Mary Nichols. And while they're coming to the stage, I just want to remind everybody, it's great if you can tweet or if you can check in on Facebook so that people know that we are here and we are concerned about this issue.
Mr. Mestiza?
Oh, Mark Mathias. Come on up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Come on up.
Come on up.
You crept in on us, but we welcome you. Is there anyone else here?
Hey, call Vicki up if you want. You don't have to. Oh, sure.
Vicki, come on up.
Come on up. Now I'm getting the price of right.
Right. Good. We want to hear from you all. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, all the way up. All right.
Right, because I don't even know your last name. So this is Vicki.
Hi.
And I will ask Vicki 2 questions.
Sure.
Why don't we get her
Yes,
last name?
what are you running for?
Why don't we get her last name too?
Vicki Englund. I'm a former state rep from South St. Louis County, and I'm running for re-election to the 94th district.
Number 1, will you introduce a bill that establishes a relocation program for families that live within 1 mile of the sites where there is a smoldering landfill that's lasted for more than 1 year?
Absolutely, and I think Representative Bierman's suggestion of all the legislators in the area co-sponsoring a bill together makes a lot of sense.
Great. Number 2, will you publicly support federal legislation to put the Corps of Engineers in charge at Westlake now, and as an elected official, please explain your response.
Yes, I would support that. I have also worked for the federal government in my past life, and so I know that maneuvering with the federal government can be a difficult situation, but it's something that needs to be done and should have been done a long time ago, honestly.
Anything else?
Well, my name is Vicki England. As I mentioned, I'm from South St. Louis County, and what I'll tell you is that while we don't have a radioactive landfill that is on fire in my neck of the woods, what I can tell you is the reason I'm here is because I know a lot of the legislators and a lot of the candidates who do know about this issue. And when you're talking about an issue of this magnitude, you're really talking about a regional issue. You know, this isn't just something that only affects North County. This is something that everyone in the St. Louis area needs to know about. And before I knew about this issue, I really did not know a whole lot about the types of things that the EPA could do and the types of things that the EPA would refuse to do. And so over the past few months, I've gotten to know Dawn, I've gotten to know a few of the other moms who really have expressed this concern. And I have 2 children myself. I don't know if I could be as brave as they are to take a step out of their real lives, come up here on stage, give interviews, be able to talk publicly about their children and about the disabilities that their children have run into. So as a mom, my heart goes out to you. I think it's amazing what you're doing, and your kids are really proud of you. I know they're too little necessarily to know that, but as a mom, I know that too. So thanks again, moms, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Next up is Mark Mathiasen.
Matisse.
What?
Close enough.
Sorry about that. Okay. Let's see. Mark is also running for state rep, right? Okay. Number 1, will you introduce a bill that establishes a relocation program for families that live within 1 mile of sites where there is a smoldering landfill that's lasted for more than 1 year? And do you want to answer that one first?
Keep going.
Okay. 2, will you publicly support federal legislation to put the Corps of Engineers in charge at Westlake now and as an elected official? And please explain your response.
Again, I'm Mark Matisse, and I'm your candidate for District 70. I want to talk about House Bill 4100 first, because that is an issue that must get taken care of now. The EPA is a reactionary agency. It is not a proactive agency. They only know how to act after tragedy strikes. The Army Corps of Engineers is the only agency that can effectively take care of this problem, and it needs to be put in their hands. Now, I live less than 2 miles from the landfill. I work less than 2 miles from this landfill. My wife is a nurse at DePaul Hospital. When tragedy strikes and we're in lockdown, I may not see her for days on end. We are part of this community, and we are in this with you. I breathe the same air you're breathing every day. My son, when I'm going to Aldi's to do my grocery shopping there on the Rock Road, I have to pause and worry that I'm putting my own son at risk to develop cancer as he gets older, because this has gone on for so long. None of you guys should have to worry if you're putting your children at risk for cancer just to go grocery shopping. Now, that's another reason we need to take care of relocating those living so close to the landfill. Our government's responsibility is to protect the citizens. If we can't protect the citizens from harm that our own government's caused, nobody else will. That's why we have to work together to get this done. So I want to thank you very much for bringing us here so we can talk to you about this issue. I have gone all across the state talking to current legislatures about this issue. One man cannot do this by themselves, and it's going to take a huge team in our legislature to get legislation actually passed through. What's really unfortunate is when I'm going across the state, there's legislatures who have never heard of this issue. And if we were actually represented by somebody who cared about us, there wouldn't be a single legislator that's in office today who had never heard of this landfill. And I have already taken steps to build that team of legislators so we can really fix this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Next up, we have Keith English. I'm going to let you say what you're running for.
State Representative, 68th District.
Number 1, will you introduce a bill that establishes a relocation program for families that live within 1 mile of sites where there is a smoldering landfill that's lasted for more than 1 year? And number 2, do you want them both? Okay. Will you publicly support federal legislation to put the Corps of Engineers in charge at Westlake now and as an elected official? Please explain your response.
Yes, as far as I'll answer yes to both the questions, but if you know me, I'm a hands-on politician. Since 2007, when I had the pleasure of meeting Kay Dry, she came to the Portsmouth City Council when I was first elected and brought it to our attention about West Lake Landfill. At that time, Mayor Robert G. Lowry, myself, and a busload of people came to see exactly what was going on. And that was when we had first really had a good taste of what was about ready to happen, which has been going on for the past 9 years. I was involved with the food SRAP when it first established in Florissant. But the question you're asking as far as legislation, I did file in 2013 HCR 18, which requests the U.S. Congress to transfer authority for the irradiation from West Lake Landfill to the EPA, or from the EPA to the Army Corps of Engineers. We're not going to get anything done unless we stop the lobbyists that got their pockets so deep with Republic money that we got to stick together and try to overturn this. For many years, I've been kicked. For the past 4 years, I've been kicked and pulled and beaten on different bills that I filed. For example, HCR 11, water testing. How good is our water? The federal government says that we have to test our water once every 9 years, but because we have West Lake Landfill 8 miles upstream from our water treatment facility that's just outside of my district, they test it once a year. When do they test it? In August, when we don't, normally, this year has been different, we don't get rain. Now working with the water company, they're going to change that starting in 2017, where they're going to test in the spring every year. So we're moving forward, but as far as hands-on, you know, I got a call from Westlake moms about the fire when we had a bad switch go bad right on the border of the radioactive waste site, and I was there within a matter of moments. We had a driver drove by and called the fire department. They put that fire out. But it's things like this that we need to, as a community, stick together. I'm building relationships. As the only independent in the Missouri legislature, non-Republican, non-Democrat, I'm getting things done. This year I passed 5 bills signed by the governor, 2 last year. All of it has to do with making our communities better and watching your tax dollars move forward. We've seen this first, how we as taxpayers will vote out a candidate. Look at the Hawley Schaefer race. Schaefer was involved with the law firm that was defending Republic Services. Guess what happened? He got beat 2-1 to Hawley. Nobody knew who Josh Hawley was, but we do now, because Josh Hawley is going to be on our side, and he's going to be a voice for us as our Attorney General as we move forward. So your votes, and we do speak, and we are listening. Unfortunately, you know, with Representative Otto, who supported my legislation, he was an avid person getting up there with me at the microphone and speaking, but we just heard a little while ago that the legislators don't know what's going on. Oh, they do know. They just don't want it trucked across their state, not realizing that all the time it's on trains and it's moving from the airport, it's moving out west. We have to educate people. I feel I've done that.
Thank you. And I think last we have Mary Nichols. Do you want both questions at the same time? Sure. Okay. Number 1. Number 1, will you introduce a bill that establishes a relocation program for families that live within 1 mile of sites where there is a smoldering landfill that's lasted for more than 1 year?
No, that will not help Trevor Beckman. I really would be very hesitant to put out a blanket bill like that every situation for a landfill is going to be so unique. Hopefully there will never be another landfill problem like we've got now. But if you're wanting to put a state law out there, I think the 1 mile radius, I think you should just leave that off. What if the hazardous waste goes out 2 miles? Then we buy out within 1 mile, we buy out half the people, and our obligation is finished. So we're leaving the rest of the people out there. Now, I did support Senator Chappelle Nadal's Senate Bill 600 last year. This was called the Hazardous Home Acquisition Program. This bill had a buyout within 3 miles. It's 1.5 miles on each side, and it specifically listed West Lake Landfill, Bridgeton Landfill, and Coldwater Creek. So I think with any legislation that you want passed to help this situation, it has to be more specific.
Number 2, will you publicly support federal legislation to put the Corps of Engineers in charge at West Lake now, and as an elected official, please explain your response.
I do support putting the Corps of Engineers in charge of West Lake Landfill, because so far we've had the EPA in there, we've had the Missouri Department of Natural Resources in there, and nothing has gotten done. So the Corps is responsible for the cleanup, and we need them quickly. Thank you for having this. It's hard not to hold that.
I know.
I'm sorry. Thank you for having this forum tonight. You ought to make this an annual event for every year we have elections. I'm Mary Nichols. I'm state representative from District 72. That includes Bridgeton, not the landfill part, but also Maryland Heights, St. Anne, Overland, Breckenridge Hills, and unincorporated St. Louis County. I feel that the most important thing that you need to do is to get that hazardous waste out of there. Not a partial removal. You have to insist on a full removal. If a little bit of that goes into our groundwater, we're going to need a much bigger buyout than 3 miles. So I think that is something you really have to push for. I'm very open to filing any legislation that has the approval of the Just Moms STL. I have very much respect for this organization. You've got people that are just normal people that have suddenly gained so much knowledge. I mean, we could give her and Dawn, a PhD in nuclear science or something. But the other thing that they've done besides knowledge is they've stuck with it. Times got tough, nobody wanted to listen to them, and they just kept on like a bulldog. So thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, we actually have a little time to hear 1 minute closing remarks from each candidate, if you like. So
we'll start right here.
We can start with the forum stage, and then we'll...
Do you want to?
So I hope what everyone's taken away from this forum tonight is that you've got a lot of folks on the stage that have some similarities in how they would attack this problem and some differences. And I think the number one thing to take away is that in order for any of these things to happen, everybody in this room needs to vote. Everybody in this room needs to bring 10 people with them to the polls to vote. There's a lot going on with our national election that is going to discourage some people from coming out to vote at all. And we need to be a constant reminder that this is one of the most important elections of our lifetimes, and that the kids of this community require us to act on their behalf. Thank you.
Again, my name is Mark Mathieson, and I just want to remind everybody about how important this is to everyone in this room, and how every day we need to keep the message alive in our community. There are thousands more people out there who need to learn more about this so that we can all work together and bring a final solution to this crisis. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
State Representative Keith English, represent Florissant and North St. Louis County. Thank you again for having this event. You've heard this from the majority of us. We need to stick together. No matter who wins coming up this November 8th, we need to back the legislation. I've already have legislation that's been drafted by Kay Dry back in 2007, and we need to move it forward. We need to educate those people on the other side of the river and let them know that we need to get this done. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
2nd District, and I just want to thank you again for having this evening, and keep up the good work, because I know you're getting under a few people's skin, the owners and operators of the landfills, and they'd probably like to tell the moms just to go home and go back to the kitchen, but thank God you're not doing that. Anyway, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not used to a mic. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so if we can have our last cohort come on up. Byron Delir, Richard Orr, Dan Hyatt, Kenny Bierman, for 1 minute closing remarks. Thanks.
Thank you for this forum. For 43 years, we have seen inaction on the 43,000 tons of illegally dumped material at the West Lake Landfill. And much of this process deals with a lot of federal bureaucracy. At the EPA meeting recently, we heard how the EPA is unwilling to do a comprehensive test to find out where the radioactive material is. We need a legislator for the 70th District, where the landfills are, that understands these intricacies and is willing to hold the EPA's hands to the fire to make sure that they do the comprehensive testing to get the science right, which is what they claim to have done. So thank you for this forum, and I'm Byron Delir, running for House District 70. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Richard Orr, running for Senate, 23rd District, St. Charles County. I want to thank the moms as well for putting on this program tonight and inviting me. I really appreciate it. And as Keith English indicated, we have an education battle ahead of us. I need to educate all of my constituents in St. Charles County that this issue definitely affects them. It's not a localized Bridgeton issue by any means. The fact that there's a smoldering fire that is heading towards a landfill with nuclear waste should be of great concern to everybody on both sides of the river. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam?
Hello, I'm Dan Hyatt, and I'm running for the 72nd District rep. I believe that there's two approaches we have to take. We have to get new state legislation that gives teeth, that allows the state to go after the landfill owners and make them perform, make them do the buyouts and such. We need to continue to work with our great federal legislators who have been working hard to get it moved over to FUSREP. There's been a lot of good information. One of the items that is often missed is we need to get search warrants so that they can search the whole landfill and find out the extent of the radiation. We need to pressure DOR and give them the teeth to go after Republic as a responsible party. And one of the things that we run into is lies, damn lies, and major lies, because a exothermic chemical reaction is a fire.
Thanks, Dan.
I would like to thank everybody for inviting me to and the moms to let me come out here and speak my piece here. As I said before, it's going to take a big team to get things moving. And I mentioned Representative Otto and his he's a tough cookie, and I think if you want to get this thing moving, that's the guy you got to get going. Anyway, I'd like to also, as a board member, and just not for what the current job, and I will do both, and I have done both as a former legislator. I would invite them if they would like to come and talk to the people in my school district, which, like I say, is part of St. Charles City and Newtown and that area up in North St. Charles County. So if you'd like to get a hold of somebody in the school district up there and spread your message over in St. Charles County, I'd be more than welcome to help you ladies along.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate your closing remarks. And as you're exiting, we'll invite Sam Page, Steve Bailey, and Bill Otto. For 1 minute closing remarks. As they're coming to the stage, I just want to remind everybody to send out a Twitter and check in. Let everybody know that you care about your city.
Sure. I don't want to follow Bill Otto, that's for sure. You guys got some energy. There's only 82 days left. My name is Sam Page. I represent you all in the St. Louis County Council, and we've come a long way over the past couple of years. I remember about a year ago when Republic hired some folks to harass and attack and ridicule the Just Moms group, and how'd that work out for them? You know, I think you're stronger than you've ever been. You're moving the ball down the field, and we've got a lot of work left to do, and in November, if I'm reelected, we'll continue to work together, and I think we've got a lot of good ideas, but we do have some elections ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill?
I did not ask Kenny Bierman to say that 3 or 4 times. My name is Bill Otto. I'm running to be your congressman in the 2nd District. You need a congressperson that will pay attention, that will show up to meetings and understand the issues and work to right the wrongs. As your congressman, I promise you several things, but number 1 is to be at your meeting, to understand and try to push not just your legislation, but your needs in Washington, D.C. I promise to have somebody on staff, immediately following an election, and that person will be Harvey Furman. It's time we dedicate the people and the resources to get this solved. And if Kenny thought I was a bulldog then, wait till I get elected then. Thanks so much.
Again, I'm Steve Bailey. I'm the Republican candidate in the 1st District. And we obviously need to move this forward on FUSREP. House Resolution 4100 was put before the legislature and assigned to committee November 19 of last year. And everything I see shows it hasn't moved an inch. You know, this is not the sort of thing that we need. We need all the local officials that you've heard, all the state representatives, the county council people. These are great people who are able to help me push that bill through so that we can get a real solution to a true federal problem. As they've identified, this is not purely regional. Certainly we have a greater impact the closer you are to this horrible event, but it can get into the water, as others have said. We need a lot more information, and certainly I'm going to stand here and tell you I need more information. You know, but the Corps of Engineers.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't see the 30s.
He's slacking over there, I think. We've got the backup over here.
I didn't see it.
He's my husband, I can say that.
Forget the mic. Okay, we are, I'd just like to ask you all to give another round to all of our candidates. Oh, just a second. We have Ed, our friend Ed.
We have a closing.
Yeah, Ed's going to give us some closing remarks.
Yes.
But I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that they did come out. They already have this on their radar, and so just so we know that you have this on your radar. You know that this is also on our radar. We're going to hold you accountable once you get in office. Thank you.
Next up, we have Ed Smith with the Missouri Coalition for the Environment, and he does get the mic.
Thank you. Most popular guy here, I don't know. So LaRonda basically did a great job closing for me. The folks that are here today mostly support the goals of the community, with some nuances here and there. So please make sure that you are sharing this video and what you learned from tonight with your friends, family, and other Missouri voters. Show up to their campaign events. Make sure that you're holding not just the folks who were here and participated accountable, but everyone up and down the ballot when you go to vote in November. And make sure you vote. And like Vicki said, make sure you bring 10 people to vote. Make sure that West Lake Landfill is one of your top issues this year. It shouldn't be a political issue, but it is, right? We know that FUSRAP needs to be put in charge. We know that the radioactive waste need to be removed. We know that people need to be getting removed out of harm's way. So these are not controversial issues, but apparently they are political. So make sure that your political goals are represented at the ballot box this year. The reason that we need to do that is because the landfill company has created what's known as an AstroTurf campaign. So, and here, this is what we call the grassroots. Everybody in here is showing up to meetings, getting educated, and going out and being active in their communities about what's happening with West Lake Landfill. The landfill company has started what's known as an AstroTurf campaign, fake grassroots, opposing what the people in this room and a lot of what the candidates spoke about this evening. So they are recruiting elected officials throughout the state of Missouri to represent their interests, and you heard some of the candidates say that this evening too. So make sure that elected officials, whether it's city councilor or the president of the United States, is making sure that this is an issue that is on their radar and that they'll take action on. So one last thing is that I was asked that the donation bucket that Dawn is holding up in the back could use some help. So Just Moms is asking for donations. If you have some, drop them in the bucket on the land. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. One more thing. This meeting took place at our community meeting, which is normally held at the John Calvin Presbyterian Church. We will reconvene in September. I think it's September 15th or 16th. And also, please come back to the August 31st candidate meeting forum that we're going to have, and bring some people with you. I think
that meeting here as well?
Yes. The candidate meeting will be here as well. Our community meeting in September will go back to John Calvin Presbyterian Church. I want to thank Mike and Jimmy for allowing us to come today. Seems as though every time we decide to hold an event and we need a space, he's always right there for us, and we really appreciate that. He also agreed that we can use it the 31st, so we're moving things, and we've got a lot of We're moving things, and we have a lot of great stuff coming up. There's some really good events. Keep watching the Facebook page or the website. We also have a newsletter now. If you want to subscribe to the newsletter, you can go on the website and click subscribe. You'll be getting updates throughout the month, and we're glad you guys came. And yes, you have a question?
I just want to know if there's a meeting coming up anytime soon where we can all ask questions and find out more information about how bad it's going to be, how far we need to move away, or whatever we need to do, and what can happen truly if the fire actually does reach the radioactive level. Is there a meeting where we can attend?
We do. Just Moms does hold a meeting every third Thursday of the month at the John Calvin Presbyterian Church, and it is an open forum. We do updates of what we know and go over documents that we've come across that we might feel might be a benefit to everyone. And you are welcome to ask questions, and if we can't answer your questions, we'll find out the answer to them, or we'll find someone that can be at our meeting that can answer your questions. Okay?
I can see that on the website.
You can see that on the website. It's www.stlradwastelegacy.com, or you can go to justmomsstl.org or .com.
Some of that information that you're probably looking for is on the website. There's a wealth of documents there and reports that will help answer a great deal of your questions.
Right. There are a lot of documents out there. We use the Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of Natural Resources own information, and we try to keep it out to the public and let them know what's going on. Any other questions? I want to thank LaRonda Wilson for being our moderator tonight. She did an awesome job, and I believe she's committed to coming back on the 31st. Yay, that's great. Anything else, Dawn? We good?
Thanks, Mom.
Oh, and we do also have these nice glow-in-the-dark Just Moms STL bands that you can wear on your wrist, and people will ask you what that is, and you can tell them, and you can turn the lights off, and it'll glow. And so if you did make a small donation, you can grab one of those bands out there on the table, and you will truly glow. That's it.